You see, the story about Lazarus is a story that is interpreted as a reality. But obviously, what Jesus was addressing was the misconception about the afterlife. It dealt again with the question of death and a resurrection. Will there be a resurrection? And the Sadducees, they denied the resurrection. In fact, they probably believed, like most of the evangelical world believes today, that there is a spirit realm in which you move when you die and that there is no resurrection. The Pharisees, on the other hand, believed in death and resurrection. And Paul clearly says, as regarding this doctrine, that he is a Pharisee. He believes in death and in a resurrection. And blessed are those that have part in the first resurrection. And of course, if you believe in the spirit world, then you also believe that there is some form of communication possible with that spirit world. And the scripture clearly says in Job and in many other places that when you're dead, then you know absolutely nothing. Then your thought processes stop. And there is no praising of God, there is no thinking with God, and as Job says, and Ecclesiastes as well, there is no returning to the place where you come from, to the home. You're not going to watch your children messing up. You're not going to see any of that. So the Sadducees had this idea, and they of course believed that because they were the children of Abraham, that purely by lineage, they were saved. They were the chosen people. So God takes this thinking of theirs, and Jesus turns it on its head. Instead of the rich man, who in their thinking was rich because he was blessed by God, going straight to the eternal bliss, he goes to this bad place, which they also, obviously with Greek philosophy all around them, thought was a place of punishment. So that turns their doctrine upside down. And Lazarus, who was full of sores, represents the pagan world that is full of sins and is trying to find some crumbs, that is spiritual crumbs, from the rich man's table. But he is very selfish because he believes basically that he alone is chosen. And by the way, that doctrine isn't dead. It's alive and well in Calvinistic thinking today, in many parts of the world. And here's this rich man, and he's down in this terrible situation, and the poor man is sitting on the lap of Abraham. And then he prays, and he says, Father Abraham, this is now the rich man, Father Abraham, please, will you, alleviate my suffering over here? Now, firstly, you're not supposed to pray to the dead, and Abraham at that stage was dead, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. So he was actually transgressing a very distinct law that is written in the Torah. So you're not supposed to do that. So he was addressing an ancestor rather than addressing God in his requests. And that is being done in the world today as well, right? Don't they speak to saints and to departed spirits and ancestor worship and all of these things? This is prevalent in the world today. Finally, he says to him, well, what if I send him to, your brothers here on earth and warn them from the fate to come? The Bible had already said in Job, never again will they return. And so the answer is, you didn't believe the law and the prophets. How are you going to believe someone that comes from the spirit world and tells you these things? So in other words, he was taking their thinking pattern, turning it upside down, and negating what they were telling the world. So this is not a story based on reality. This is like an allegorical tale where he takes the doctrine of the day, which is exactly the same doctrine as we have in the world today, turns it upside down, and takes them back to the scripture That's where your answer lies, not in your philosophies, not in your traditions, not in your false theology. Go and study the Word. And that cannot be taken as a story of reality in that sense.